on vacation. I'm Samantha Falk. Well, for the second time in his political career, Maple Ridge Mission MLA Mark Dalton is facing a recall campaign. And he's not the only one facing dissent right now. And joining me now is one of the organizers of the recall campaign, Jennifer Heighton of the BC Citizens for Recall. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about Mark Dalton first. Why have you decided to do this? And it's the second time in 4 years.
That's correct. Well, Mark Dalton has not represented his citizens well, and that's what the people in his riding feel. And so we feel he's a good candidate because there's a lot of different issues in Maple Ridge Mission that have not been dealt with.
So when you say he hasn't represented his constituents well, what do you mean? What hasn't he done?
He hasn't advocated for so many different things in his riding. So, for example, in the Maple Ridge Mission Hospital, there's been severe underfunding in that area for years. We've had some explanation to us that they get funded for about 24 patients a day on average, but they actually deal with about 39 patients a day. Another thing too is last year, 10 of the nurses left because they were so overworked. The workload was way too much. This has been something that citizens have been bringing up for years, and it still has not been dealt with.
So citizens contact his office, lobby, try to get some attention on this, and nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
And so what is the threshold for success in a recall campaign?
You need 40% of the signatures of the registered voters who were in the riding in May 2013, which is the date of the last election.
Right. Now, are these the same issues facing Mark Dalton that faced him when you tried the recall campaign 4 years ago?
Well, there is a different group that tried the recall campaign 4 years ago. It wasn't us.
And so that campaign was not successful in 2011?
Well, not that it wasn't successful, they pulled out. They pulled out because the government at the time said they repealed the HST.
Right.
And so then at the time, the recall people had campaigned on the fact that Dalton was in favor of the HST, and once that had been repealed, then they pulled back. But they actually had been getting enough signatures. They were on track to be successful.
So you're pretty confident you could be successful this time around?
I definitely think so, because the climate in the province, there are so many people who are upset. Not just about healthcare, but so many other things. There's education, there's resident hunters out there, there's people upset about the ambulance service cutbacks. There's all kinds of issues going on, even poverty within the riding.
Well, lots of ridings face those same issues, though.
They certainly do, yes.
And, you know, sometimes politicians are successful, sometimes they're not.
Well, it's their job to advocate for their citizens. They need to actually be standing up there and telling the government of the day that this is what my people want, this is the issues that I'm seeing in my riding, and maybe we need to change some of the laws that we are passing. Maybe we need to relook at the budget. When citizens are saying that they want education and health to be the #1 priority in the budget, and then it comes back with, well, we're going to do some cuts in those areas, how is that listening to your people? And when you are voting for those budgets or those laws that are being passed, then you are responsible for those votes.
Okay, well, let's talk about Richard Lee. He is also facing a recall campaign, the MLA for Burnaby North. Why him?
So Richard Lee is very, very similar. Again, people in the riding don't feel that he has represented them that well. We have been going around and knocking on doors and asking people, you know, how do you feel about Richard Lee? How do you think he has represented you? And a lot of people don't know who he is. So in 14 years as an MLA, that's how much of an impression he's made. And then other people have said that they really don't like how he's represented them, that they've gone to him about issues, they've talked with him, and he has not dealt with it other than to say, just towing the party line type things. Oh, we're looking at it, or we're talking about it, but then there's no action.
Right. Now, these are just the first 2 recall campaigns that you have planned, and you have a total of a dozen planned?
Well, there are a dozen on the list. That's a potential. It depends on how the government responds. I mean, our main goal is to get accountable government, a government that listens to citizens, one that takes into consideration what their concerns are and tries to put in policy to benefit the people of the province. If through these recalls we are able to get the government to sit up and say, you know what, maybe we do need to rethink some of our policy, then in that case, the other 10 ridings, we might not have to go
Right.
and do those. However, if the government continues to persist in ignoring people, then we may have to go that route.
So is the ultimate goal then to actually remove these people from office, or is it really to get the discussion going, to get government paying attention to these issues, to get a little more awareness and action?
It is basically to bring democracy back to the system. And democracy, by democracy, I'm saying the people's voice, because that is not being heard. And so recall is one way for people to say, look, I'm not in agreement with what's been going on. I'm going to use my signature to show that I think I need another representative, one who will represent me. So with recall, what we're trying to do is trigger the by-election. Once a by-election has been triggered, then we step back and we let the parties do their campaign, and then the people in the riding get to decide.
Do you think it's an effective tool that we have available to us in British Columbia?
I think it is effective. I think it is. We are lucky to have it. In 1991, BC people chose to have recall legislation. So there was a referendum in 1991 where the government asked everybody, would you like to have Recall and Initiative Act? And people voted 80% yes to have recall legislation. So this is something that BC citizens chose to have, and BC is the only province in Canada that has it. Now the bar is set fairly high. It's 40% of all the registered voters. However, we are feeling like the climate in the province right now is such that that 40% could easily be met.
Well, it's a high threshold, because often 40% of registered voters do not vote. So you've got a big road ahead of you for sure.
It is a big road. However, we feel that people who don't vote can easily buy into this, because a lot of times when people don't vote, they're frustrated. They're frustrated with the government. They're frustrated with politicians.
Well, they should vote then.
They feel like their vote doesn't count. Where in this, their signature will count, because by signing the recall petition, you're telling government, you know what, we don't think you're doing a great job. We think we need somebody else. And so this is a way for people who are frustrated with the government to actually voice that concern.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and telling us about it today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
As you heard, well, we're going to be talking to Maple Ridge Mission MLA Mark Dalton right after the break and get his reaction to the recall campaign he is now facing. Stay with us.